What's up, guys? So Jets rookie camp wrapping up, a couple of days, and just some tidbits that I thought were interesting from various reporters before we head into what is really the only dead season after the schedule release coming this week. And then till training camp, there's that 6 weeks where there really is nothing going on. So I won't be making daily videos during that time for sure, unless there's news or like the podcast with Dylan. Besides that, you probably won't see a ton of me over the next 6 weeks. Probably for the best that even fans take a bit of an off-season break too, as well. What's become a 365 sport in the NFL. But so first things first, per Rich Cimini, a couple of players were released. Jimmy Ciarlo, linebacker, and wide receivers Aesop Winston and Marcus Riley. I doubt any of us had them penciled in on our final 53-man roster, but those players were released before they opened camp. And a couple of other players were invited to camp who were non-rookies. This means the coaching staff wanted to get maybe a little bit of extra look at you before camp opens, that being quarterback Adrian Martinez, tight ends Zach Kuntz and Neil Johnson. Obviously, we know Kuntz, the UDFA, or the 7th-round pick, I believe, under Joe Douglas, and Johnson, who can play a little bit of fullback. Maybe that's his path to making the team. Offensive lineman Obinna Eze and Colaveo. Remember, Colaveo was the CFL dude they brought in last offseason, had a pretty good preseason. But he can only play guard. He can't play center and guard. So that's kind of a tough to be a backup interior guy to be able to play all three is definitely helpful. And then Eze is that mammoth, like 6'9" offensive lineman from TCU. Also linebacker Jackson Sherman, who was on the Jets. We heard his name in preseason last year. And then Ontario Wilson, who's another player who spent a little bit of time in the CFL. So maybe some of those guys impressed a little bit and will get a chance to make the roster, right? You'd rather get the call of, hey, you're invited to camp than the one that the previous guys got of, hey, we're moving on from you, right? Now, speaking of camp, one thing that multiple reporters pointed out, and starting with Rich Cimini, and the reason I go to him for this one is because he definitely doesn't have a reputation of putting a positive jet slant on things. So if he is making a note of it, I think it's worth discussing. That he said, quote, definitely a different vibe under Aaron Glenn than the previous staff. Practices were more intense and everyone participated, including draft picks. Previously, the draft picks were held out to prevent injuries, unquote. Yeah, man. Young players should be practicing football to get better at football. When I read that, I was like, what? Come on, Salah. Come on, brother. What is that? Yeah. We should our young players should be practicing. That's probably good. The latter portion of practice, this is Cimini again, we're closed to the media, so we couldn't get a full total picture. Okay. But yeah, he pointed that out. A lot of reporters are pointing out the energy, Aaron Glenn communicating a lot more, Aaron Glenn in the offensive huddle. So look, we're grasping at any straws we can to believe that this new coaching staff will be better than the previous ones. And at the end of the day, we have no idea. But I do think early on, you're starting to see maybe some like personality differences that could lead to Aaron Glenn being a better leader. We have no idea how he'll do. But I will also say with Coach Glenn, there was a video they put out of him at the training camp facility. And you could just see, you're looking at him and it's like, this dude knows what the assignment is because he knows what it is to be a Jet. Like he understands the very unique challenge of having Woody Johnson as your boss and the margin for error and the playoff drought and the media. Like he knows all of that. Does that guarantee success? But I think that's a unique perspective for a head coach to have, to already come in and what time it is, right? Because it's different at One Jets Drive, and he already knows that. Now, I also wanted to get into this. I thought it was a really good article from Nick Faria, who is now writing for Jet X Factor. I'll throw that up on the screen. As always, do have permission from co-owner Robbie Sabo to share their content on the channel. Jet X Factor, great website. When I signed up, it was $5 a month. I think it's probably still around there, but you could do a free trial so you get insider information because Sabo and Ferry are at camp, at practice. You get advanced analytics. You get film breakdowns of all the new draft picks and all the new the free agents that they signed. Joe Blue will probably be getting those out this summer. So really good stuff if you're a Jet fan. I think you can save a little bit if you subscribe for the year as well. So he titled this basically stock up, stock down during rookie minicamp. Obviously, all the grains of salt can be applied to that, but it's just here's the information. Rookie camp means as much as to you as you want, but here's the information he's giving us. So first he said stock down to Malachi Corley. And basically he's like not as involved with and just not standing out in some of the same stuff we saw at the beginning of last summer. Again, for me, when I look at this, I just take the positives and then, this doesn't mean Corley's not going to make the team or any of that. I think the totality of training camp and preseason matters, all of it combined, because it was obvious last year Corley was not long to play a role on the team last year. If you followed the tea leaves all summer, we could have buried our head in the sand about it. They're trying to not show their card. They're keeping him a secret. Like, no, they were not going to play him. It was very obvious. Is it obvious yet? No, because it's like 3 freaking days. So we got to wait for the whole thing to unfold. And then you can draw some conclusions from practice. Just need a bigger sample size. But it seems like Smith is getting some more cracks earlier, and he made some more impressive plays, according to Feria. And that probably makes sense. Like, if they're going to play their guy, all things being equal, that's just how it goes when you change coaching staffs. He does mention Aaron Smith, obviously, stock up in comparison to Corley, stock down. Speed Demon showcased athleticism in droves, showed drastic improvements in catching the football. Okay, that's good. Yeah, Feria pointed out there's a legitimate chance Smith may be in contention to be wide receiver 2 this year. I mean, it's pretty open, right? Because who's in the way? It's a couple of stopgap veterans in Lazard and Reynolds. I don't think Tyler Johnson is really in consideration. So it would be one of those 2 veterans or one of these 2 young guys, Arian Smith and Malachi Corley. I think Smith has as good a shot as anyone else. And I do think they're going to give these young players a chance to play early. Look, man, sometimes we called for young players to play and they played and it was like, oh, they kind of sucked. But you got to give these guys a shot. You got to know what you're working with. I wish we saw a little bit more of our young players previously, because then you know more about, like, what if we got to see Corley last year and they just played him over Herb Charles and whatever, and Allen Lazard dropping the ball, especially when the season was lost. At least we'd have more information. We'd say, and then if he's dropping the ball and fumbling and not getting open and committing penalties, be like, oh, okay, well, maybe Malachi Corley's not good. But now going into the season, you have no information on him. So let's find out what these kids have, deal with some growing pains. If he's going to drop the ball, well, so is Allen Lazard. So if Arian Smith is fast and drops the ball, and Allen Lazard is slow and drops the ball, and Allen Lazard also commits penalties, so he's not even giving you the heady veteran advantage, just play Smith. Well, why do I need to see Allen Lazard over Arian Smith on the field? You cannot think of one reason except for the blocking is a bit better, but Smith is pound for pound a very scrappy blocker. No, just play Smith. Let's see what he's got. And I've gotten a chance to watch a bit more of him, and I'll say, yeah, it's exactly what you read. The drops are egregious. They're not. You're going in there hoping to think, oh, well, maybe that shouldn't have been a drop. That was more of a contested catch miss, or that was a pass broken up. No, the drops are just straight up atrocious drops, but also the speed is like, holy shit, fast. Because some guys have a fast 40 time, it doesn't really show up, and vice versa, where if I didn't know what his 40 time was, I think it's 4.36. If I didn't know what it was just watching him, I would guess that his 40 time was actually even faster than that. He looks like he's a high 4.2 type of player that would be in the mix for like breaking like historical 40 time. Like, he is that unbelievably fast. You'll see a massive cushion given to him and him just eat it and then beat the guy by 10 yards. Unbelievable speed. But again, the drops are there. So yeah, I think he should have a good chance to anyone else. Why not? Malachi Corley, we'll just have to see. They're 2 very different skill sets, but I'd wager it seems like probably one of them, right? I don't know if you could have a starting wide receiver trio that includes Arian Smith and Malachi Corley yet at this point. That'd be nice because they're both drafted to be, but we'll see. If we could get one of them to pop and be a wide receiver 2, and the other one maybe just ends up being a role player, I think we'll take that. So Feria also had some positive things to say about Aaron Glenn. Developing a nurturing style of coaching that also holds players accountable. Okay. Fact that he has 94% attendance in voluntary workouts and minimal distractions, just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, I mean, I think they had pretty good attendance in previous years, and the distractions, I don't know. That seems okay. Well, that's what Nick thinks. That's fine. He was there. I wasn't. Okay, so stock down. Also, Quentin Skinner, who's a UDFA wide receiver, that super long, lanky, thin dude who could be the next Irv Charles. I think that's his path of making the team. Is can he, unseat what is it, Bryant from Houston as just that reserve special team player. So I would imagine he doesn't really impress on offense, but it seemed like he didn't. The 2025 rookie class stock up. Okay. Each of their 7 picks made an impact on the field in 11 on 11 drills. Awesome. And individual work. As things stand now, the Jets should have 2 clear-cut starters from this group going into the start of the season. That being Armand Membu and Mason Taylor. Also notes that Tyler Barron and Malachi Moore, if they continue to stand out, that number could grow much quicker than anyone realizes. Yeah, yeah, like 2.5 is the number, right? Of how many day one starters you'd have. I think behind Taylor, the most likely would be Malachi Moore, just because the competition there at the other safety spot besides Cisco is like Tony Adams and Isaiah Oliver. If this staff views him as a safety, because Saleh and Ulbrich viewed him as more of a safety that they had to play at nickel because of Carter's injury, where when he played under Wilkes in San Francisco, he was just a nickel. He was a starting nickel. So I don't know how they view Isaiah Oliver, who's okay as a backup. But yeah, there's not much in the way of competition. And Malachi Moore being an older player as a 4th-round pick, yeah, I think it's totally reasonable that he starts week 1. Honestly, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed if Malachi Moore doesn't start week 1. That's probably unfair. But just given the level of competition, like just stick him out there and let's see what happens. For sure. As Isaiah Thomas, I think Stevens, the financial commitment they made to him, unless as Thomas looks like prime Darrelle Revis and Stevens looks like not prime Tremaine Johnson, I think Stevens is going to get the go. Like Stevens is going to be the guy until he's not. Until they put that, they could say whatever they want about best man wins, yes, but the $12 million veteran is going to be on the field week 1. It's his job until it's not. So I would say, yeah, 2.5 would probably be the line for starters. And I think Malachi Moore could be that third guy that pushes it over the top. Stock down to Brady Cook. Yeah, I saw a lot of Brady Cook tweets about some pretty spotty accuracy, which, yeah, man, it's QB3. So him and Martinez, you don't hope to see either of them play this year. But Cook could also make the team if they want to keep a third quarterback. Again, the tiebreaker will go to their guy if he and Martinez are equal. But remember, Martinez again, it's preseason, but that's all you have to go off of. Martinez looked like Steve Young in last year's preseason out there. So we'll see what happens there. And then Donovan Edwards, biggest winner of the 2025 class. Okay. Edwards doesn't have amazing speed, but he showed patience and good maneuverability to find gaping holes during 11 on 11 work. Yeah, so if they want to keep a 4th running back, I think that job is definitely his. Now, if they only want to keep 3, they could like him better than I did Isaiah Davis. They didn't draft Isaiah Davis. We saw the team take Izzy Abanikanda, and we felt pretty excited about his skill set. And then a year later, he was gone and replaced by Davis. So it's possible. But I would hope that if it's Edwards, I hope it's an addition to Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen and not necessarily replacing one of them. I do like that the Jets didn't spend any draft capital on running back in this draft class. Just felt it was unnecessary based on how their roster was built. But there's some news and notes from rookie camp, and we'll talk about soon. Go Jets.